Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here tonight. The Giants beat the Cubs 4-0 today. Carlos Rodon shut them out through 7 innings of work, and I hope that conveys a very powerful message to the team. The message is this, that Carlos Rodon belongs on this San Francisco Giants team and not on the trade market, and that this team belongs in the running for a playoff spot and not on the list of sellers who have given up. I said that it might take 2 wins before the trade deadline to fully convince me of this. This is enough. I changed my mind right here and right now. This is enough. This is a buying year for the Giants. That's what it should be. Now, I've mentioned this before. I hope you're not tired of this, but I will mention this one more time. After that, I'll try to put it by. In 2019, the Giants had been planning, like throughout the year when they had a really bad first half until July, they'd been planning to trade Madison Bumgarner and Will Smith at the deadline that year. But Farhan Zaidi decided against it in 2019 when the trade deadline came up because the Giants were really the best team in baseball with their really hot rally that they had. But, unfortunately, the team needed more. And what did they do? Did they buy back in 2019? Well, they traded for Scooter Gennett. Did Gennett perform well for the Giants? No, he did not. Had he performed especially well for the Reds earlier in that year? I don't think so. He also spent time on the injured list. Was he the one and only guy for the Giants to go after in 2019? And is it even like they didn't sell at all that year? No, it is not. They traded a couple relievers, Sam Dyson and Mark Melancon. So they made those moves. It was for prospects. They haven't won a championship since then, certainly. I think the 2021 season was mostly a result of the resurgence of veterans, and yes, some young guys too, but I still look back at 2019 and say they traded Dyson and Melancon. They also traded a few prospects to get Gennett along. So that whole complex, you can call it whatever you want, but in my book, that is not buying what they did in 2019. It's making some moves at the trade deadline. It's doing this kind of moderate combination of both, but it is absolutely not buying in my book. And maybe the Giants wouldn't have intended for it to even be called that. I don't know, but I do remember that when the Giants were on that hot streak, jumping into the thick of the National League wildcard race, even though it was only a 5-team playoff format back then. But what they were saying was that they could be trying to add on another player, but it wasn't an add-on season for them. It was just, it's not. That's not what that type of thing's called. And this year, it's got to be different. The playoffs are expanded. They've fully convinced me that this is a buying year, and this is absolutely a year of contention for the playoffs. Therefore, I want them to buy. It's the only outcome of the deadline that I can really accept as good for them. I'm not going to say it's good if they trade to get prospects that you don't know exactly when they're going to be ready for the majors, and you just... I'm not going to say that's a good thing. This is a buying year, and this is a win right now. Their playoff shot for right now is right now this year. They beat the Cubs today. They took 3 out of the 4 games against the Cubs. They are turning this around. That is certainly what it looks like now. They will also have 2 games against the Dodgers. Of course, we can get our nervousness up about that a little, but things are trending in the right direction. Other than Rodon's 7-inning start, Jason Vossler had an RBI single, Austin Wynns had an RBI double for the Giants, so it's good to see those young guys who I think are both replacement level players for right now, but I think they're both on the prospect list for the Giants in the future, so it's good to see them perform. Also, the other catcher on the roster, Joey Bart, I mentioned yesterday he hit a home run. It was good to see some power from him. But the Giants, they're showing some ability to score runs, and it was combined with Carlos Rodon's pitching. And I hope that Rodon has just given a very powerful message that he belongs on the team, not on the market. On the team for the Giants. And that it's not enough to just let things go as they are. They need to trade at the deadline. And what I'm worried about is that the front office is just going to get behind other teams in making offers for Juan Soto. I mean, you do have to do some catch-up work and at least show interest in him. The time is now to show interest in either him or there are other guys on the market they could go after, or someone else like Shohei Ohtani. They better go after the big names there. At least now is the time to show interest. It's convinced me they need to buy this year. Just the win today. That's all. That's been enough. They need to buy no matter what happens in these couple of games against the Dodgers. But they have to go after fairly big names at the trade deadline. There's no balance between buying and selling that's really going to be acceptable for them right now. They need to buy, and there are other things that you could call whatever you want, but they're not buying, and I don't want that to happen this year. It's their time to make the playoffs. That is this year in 2022. It's within reach. Yes, it's going to be close. It could be so close as to go into the final week and have you and just having a big battle in the final week like they did in 2020. Of course, it's got to be better than that. Just better results, better playing in the last part of the season. Sometimes that's how you get into the playoffs. And 4 teams from each league are going to have to be wild card this season, so having to play an extra wild card series, that shouldn't scare the Giants. Shouldn't in a regular format, and it shouldn't in this format, because they need to try to be there in the postseason this year. It's their time to do it. So now, while I'm not saying that they need to exactly commit to making offers right now, they can wait till Tuesday to do whatever moves they're going to do, but they need to show interest in the big names that are on the market this year, because the Giants, even though they haven't looked great, they had a horrible losing streak, they did win this series against the Cubs, and it was a 4-game series that they won 3 out of 4 to win, and they need to pick up somebody at the trade deadline. They need to do some serious buying and some real buying. So that's the way it is. That was enough for me. And these next few games against the Dodgers are going to be pretty critical, because you don't want to have to play one of the best teams in the league when you're chasing a wild card spot, but it's just the Dodgers are in their division. It's just the way it goes. A lot of games in each season are scheduled against the Dodgers. It's the way it is. They need to chase down this wild card spot. I believe they can do it if they pick up the right players. I also think that it's insufficient for them if they just continue to do it with the current roster that they have. So the case is closed for me now. They need to buy at the trade deadline. And with that, I'm going to sign off for today, but I will be back. I just want to tell you when I'm going to be back. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be back on Giants Baseball 101 with more on this topic, and hopefully I'll be prepared and can just get really detailed about this. But for right now, the Giants did what Ben Kaspick said they needed to do. They did what I would certainly agree they probably need to do, took 3 out of 4 against the Cubs. Their record is now tied at 51-51. And whatever anyone else is saying right now, I'm saying the year to go for, and to considerably go for, is 2022. It's the year we're in right now, and it's the couple of months left in the season that we have got. It's this year that the Giants need to try to win. They need to focus at the trade deadline on winning now. Could have been the hope of that was all erased for some fans after the terrible losing streak, but now they're getting back into it, and they do have a tied record. As we speak, their record is tied 51-51, and so look at this. With a tied record, 51 wins, 51 losses, they've got a season with an extra playoff spot in the league. That's a contender's year if there's any way you can put together a roster that's good enough for it. it's the last couple of months of this season that the Giants have to fight for. If you look at the statistics, 51-51. 2 more months in the season. It's going to be close. Going to be really close. It's something they can fight for here, a wild card spot to try to go and do something in the playoffs and to make a legitimate run at the World Series title this year. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to say that the Giants' time to win is this year. So, look at all the possibilities that could happen at the trade deadline. What is the number one worst one? Okay, number one on our list, the absolute worst things, one of the absolute worst things they could do is to trade Carlos Rodon. That's the thing that I just do not want to see happening. I'm not going to be happy in my mind if they do. I'm not going to be happy on Giants Baseball 101 if they do. That is probably the worst thing they could do. And really to trade any of their key pieces of their roster, but Rodon was on I think a 2-year deal, so they probably think his contract's just about up and he's going to be a good trade chip. And well, evidently teams have shown interest in him. I think it's true that they're getting offers for Rodon. But I'm saying this after they won this series against the Cubs, and the statistic we're going back to is that they are tied with wins and losses in their season at 51-51. So number one on our list, the worst, absolute worst thing they could do at the trade deadline, the most despicable thing, is to trade Carlos Rodon, the pitcher who was an all-star this year and who just threw a 7-inning shutout to win this game for the Giants against the Cubs and to seal their series. That's the thing we cannot accept. We do not want to see happening. Okay, next on the list. Number two, what's the next worst thing that could reasonably happen? Well, I would say that they do nothing at the trade deadline. And you could say, well, what if they buy a few, sell a few? Well, at least if they did that, they're probably, just the fact that they'd be buying it all, like say they took a 2019 approach. And again, that's not buying. Stick with me there on that one. 2019 was not buying for the Giants. It may have been, I don't know if they would have made the playoffs. I'm just saying, it's not buying. So, what's number two on our list? I'm saying the next worst thing they could do is to really not do anything. Because at least if they made some minor moves, but also tried to get a few prospects, they probably would be considered to be trying to at least upgrade their roster, like right now, trying to upgrade their present 2022 roster, although not nearly as much as they should. So we're going to save that for number three, but number two is doing nothing at the trade deadline. Because this roster, they've had some serious losing streaks this year. What does that tell you? Well, I'll tell you what it tells me. It doesn't tell me that this isn't the year for them and that this is a seller's year. All it tells me is that that could be a sign they're going to fall off if they don't upgrade their roster in 2022. That's where the closeness lies. It's just got a solution. They've had some serious losing streaks. And yeah, what if another one happened in the final week of the season? Playoff push? That's why they need to upgrade their roster. To me, that's just the solution. That's what their losing streaks tell me. So number two on our worst thing that could happen list is they do nothing. And number three, they just make these weak moves that might not end up counting in the end. Well, there was talk of the Giants getting Juan Soto earlier in the month. Now they're way down on the list, and we're still not hearing about them as real candidates to get any one of the big names that are on the free agent market. I hope that what we're not hearing is not, I hope it's not no news is bad news. We may not be hearing this, at least I'm not hearing it, but I hope it's happening behind the scenes, and I hope they're showing some interest here. But number three is to make a move, I would say, like they made in 2019. Wasn't buying. I already discussed that. And number four, now, there are going to be some subtitles of possibilities at the trade deadline. Of course, I've skipped some things that could really happen, but number four, that is the last one I'm discussing on my list, so I'm going to call it the best thing. They go after players, they go after the top players out there, and they upgrade their roster to a way that they can make the playoffs. Wahoo! That's number four. because it's the best thing they could do at the trade deadline. That's my list of possibilities, and tomorrow morning I'm going to be back on. We're going to discuss this critical time further about what they can do at the trade deadline, what they need to do. So please join me then. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not. Please email me with any questions or comments you might have at gabrielvaughn89@gmail.com. Thank you. I'll see you next time. See you tomorrow morning. So be up and ready to tune in to Giants Baseball 101.